Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about Subaru diagnostic software and the pros and cons to it, the difficulties with it, and some new options that makes it more available for us in the aftermarket. So Subaru diagnostic software is called Subaru Select Monitor, and there's or SSM. There's SSM3, which covers 98 to 2014, SSM4, which is 2015 and newer, and then some of the brand new stuff uses ssm-iii, which is a cloud-based software. SSM3 and SSM4 are installed on your laptop. SSM4, once you have paid for it and got it installed and got it functioning, it works with any J2534 programming device like this CARDAQ Plus 3. Subaru SSM3 unfortunately only works with 2 devices, or at least it used to. Now this is Subaru Select Monitor 3. You can see here up at the top, Subaru Select Monitor 3. It says USB SDI. Now the SDI is a Subaru diagnostic interface, which I have right here. Now I bought this back in November, I believe. I had this on my eBay watch list for a while. One popped up that was quite affordable, so I instantly bought it. Generally, these are priced around $2,000, and this is the older Subaru interface. This, I don't think, even works with SSM4, and it actually says Subaru Select Monitor 3 on the box. So I got one for around $1,000. It came with all the accessories. It didn't come with the case. It came in a Milwaukee, tool case or something, but it's in rather good shape. The ones that I'm seeing on eBay now are dirty, dingy, and quite a bit more expensive. We'll cover some of the eBay listings here in a second. So that's what I have my Subaru Select Monitor 3 set up for. Now, if we go to the top of the screen and click on Interface Box or IF Box, we can pick our drop-down options for what interface we're going to use. Now, we have 2 options. One is SDI. The other one is DST-i. Now, I don't have a Denso DST-i, so I've never used this option. And quite honestly, they are even more difficult to get than the Subaru SDI. Last time I looked on eBay, there was only one SDI available. I couldn't find a Denso DST-i that was actually a functional tool for Subaru. And that's because both of these tools are discontinued and obsolete. Denso's not making it anymore. The SSM3 isn't being made anymore, or the SDI. So we're kind of running out of options unless you find one used somewhere. Even the dealership has been told to keep their Denso DST-i's for the older vehicles. There is a new interface that works with SSM4 and also SSM-iii, and that's the Denso DST-010. And it's just a small dongle, but it's not backwards compatible with Subaru Select Monitor 3 software. So if you need to work on those older vehicles, you need to have the DST-i or the SDI, or at least we used to. So I'm going to close this out. I just saw an announcement from Opus that their Subaru Mongoose cable works with SSM3 software. Now, I don't have a Mongoose cable, but in reading this, I was kind of interested to see that there's some other options that we have. So here is the Mongoose Plus. It's wired. There's a Bluetooth version and the Super Goose. Now, I don't know what the difference is. I think the Super Goose can be used for multiple brands and not just one brand like the Mongoose. But let's open up the sell sheet here. This is just going to be information about that tool. So it says Mongoose Plus OEMs available. We have Ford, Honda, Nissan, Toyota, VW, Chrysler, GM, and Subaru. Now I clicked on the Subaru one, so let's go down. The sell sheet may all be the same, but Subaru, SSM3, SSM4, and TechStream. Now, Subaru has TechStream because some of their Subarus are Toyota platform based. Reprogramming 2004 to current. Non-emission reprogramming 2018 to current. Which is kind of strange that one there isn't backwards compatible, because I think with the J-Box, you can program non-emissions or non-powertrain modules. And then OEM diagnostics for 2004 and current. But how do we get that to work with the Subaru software? Because we don't have a drop down for the Mongoose. So the Mongoose must be emulating one of those other pieces of software or hardware. Let's go back. We're going to go back to the Opus main page. We're going to go to support, and we're going to go to the download page. Now this is where we're going to have the drivers. And I'm going to go to the drivers for the Mongoose for Subaru. So we have the Mongoose Plus for Subaru. We want the setup manual. So let's download that. So I have that file extracted and I have it in my Subaru folder here. So let's go ahead and open that. Now I already have the J2534 toolbox installed, so I don't need to install that, but I'm just going to accept this agreement here so I can install the drivers for that Subaru Mongoose cable. Now I don't have a Mongoose cable, but I'll get to that here in a second. So at the end of that install, this little message pops up, and this is launch the SSM3 configuration app. Now, if you don't have your stuff set up and you don't open this up right away, we can get to this later. So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to show you where it installs this folder. We can exit that installer. Let me close this out. If we go to our start button and we go down to Drew Technologies, scroll down, we have the Subaru Plus Subaru configuration. I think that's the one we need. No, that is not the one we need. The Opus SSM3 configuration app. That's what we need to open. Now this is the app that is going to let us use two devices in place of one of those Subaru devices. We can use the Subaru Mongoose cable, which I don't have, or we can use our CARDAQ Plus 3, and it's going to emulate one of the Subaru devices, and it's actually going to emulate the Denso DST-i, but I don't think that's really accurate. I think what they're doing is they're probably going into the registry, and they're just, because the Denso DST-i is probably based heavily on a J protocol, they're just pointing to a different driver. Instead of it linking to the Denso DST-i when we have it selected in the software, they're linking it to the CARDAQ. So my current device is the Denso DST-i. So if you had more than one device and you were switching back and forth, you may have to open this, whenever you're switching devices. But we don't have that. We have the CARDAQ Plus 3. So we're going to save that. So now, whenever we open up Subaru Select Monitor 3, we still need to select the Denso DST-i. But we can use it with our CARDAQ Plus 3. Now here's what I want to do. I have a Subaru of mine parked outside. It's a car with a rod knock. It's a bad engine, so we're not going to be, running and driving it. But I just threw a good battery in it so we can test this. What I want to do is I want to go outside. I'll put my laptop out there. We should be able to control it remotely. That's what we're seeing on the screen here is my laptop. I'll hook the Subaru diagnostic interface up. And if you guys have ever performed a full code scan with the Subaru diagnostic interface, it is painfully slow. But what I want to do, and it's going to be a long process, is I want to see if both devices can complete that full code scan. And if so, how long does it take? So I'll speed up the process, obviously, so you guys don't have to sit here through it. It's going to be a long process for me. Once we've completed that process, if either one of them fails, then we'll go through and manually see what modules we can connect with. So I'm going to jump outside. I will plug in this to the car, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our correct interface selected at the top. We have the SDI. Now, let's go to, so this screen here, this is our main screen that opens up when we open the software. Are we looking at a BRZ, or are we looking at every other model for Subaru? Well, it's an all other model. It is an Outback. Now we could go to each system check, or we can go to all system diagnosis. Let's do all system diagnosis, and it is 2:14 right now. Let's see how long this takes to complete. So as we can see in the bottom corner, it is 2:22. I think it finished at 2:21, and I think it was 2:14 when we started. So not a very fast process for full code scan. We have improper keying communication. Now the battery was dead on this car, completely dead and frozen. So I put a fresh battery in it to bring it over here. But it has some history codes in here. Pressure decrease in the tires, no transmitter data. It does have a flat tire on it now. And then we have some other CAN communication faults. Then down here is all the failures. So this doesn't look at the VIN number and try to guess what modules are on the vehicle. It is going to scan for every single module possible. And that's why this code scan is so difficult and so time consuming. So those are all the different modules that failed. But we did get 11 codes total, which I don't see 11 codes in here. But either way, we can save this code scan, give it a name, and we could even print it, although it would be a waste of paper for most of the stuff that's on there. So let's exit out of here. Let's just go to each system test, go to engine control system. Now I'm not out at the car to push the cruise control button like it'll ask me to, but here this should just take about 10 or 15 seconds, 2.5 single overhead cam, and now we have our codes. So let me go to code check, temporary codes. So this has no codes. Memorized codes, same deal. Let's go back. Let's look at data. Go to our data stream here. Now, what I'm interested in, because there is a Chinese tool called the VX Diag All Scanner, and I had that tool before I bought the Subaru tool, and I had some trouble with it. And it was very, very slow, which the Subaru tool is as well, so that's understanding. But the data stream was kind of weird. Now, I've since given that tool away to somebody else, and they kind of realized what was happening. The clock rate or the sample rate inside the tool is not right. So where this is, you can see it counting number of samples. That tool will gather 1,000 samples, in a 10-second period because the clock rate isn't set right. And it kind of screws up your whole timeline, especially if you're graphing stuff. Now with this many things selected, we would get really slow data anyways. Now, if you've never used SSM3 before, once you get to this screen, you're like, well, crap, now I'm stuck. I can't exit. I can't do anything. The only button we have is F2, which is hold. And that is the same as the stop button. Once we stop it, then we can save the data we captured, or we can exit, or we can print it, or we can change our settings. So you have to stop the capture to change your settings. So let's just select a couple things here. We're going to pick 4 data PIDs. And then we're going to select those PIDs. We'll hit play. And you see how much faster my sample rate is? I'm not collecting all that data, so the sample rate is much faster. So I get more accurate data here. We can stop it again. If we want to view it as a graph, we can do that. Or there's a different style graph. Then we have to restart our capture. Now there's a lot of settings in here that I don't normally mess with. Normally aftermarket tools are faster to connect and read data from. So I don't get out the Subaru interface unless I'm having issues with the aftermarket tool typically, or there's a specific function that I want to do with the factory tool. Especially if I'm updating a module, then I will just continue on with my process using the factory tool. One of those functions would be like a quick learn on a CVT transmission. The aftermarket tools, I run into those failing about 50% of the time. When I use the Subaru tool, I don't think I've had a single one fail that unless the temperature was too low or something on my end where I didn't set it up right. But here's what I want to do. I want to, now that we know that, it took, 8 minutes for a complete code scan, let's exit out of here. We're going to get back to our home screen. We're going to select the DST-i. Now I don't have the other interface connected, but when we select that, it's going to restart the application. Actually, it just closes it. It doesn't open it back up for you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go plug this into the car. Instead of the Subaru SDI, we'll redo the complete code scan and see how long it takes this guy to complete that scan. This may be a deciding factor for you if you're going to go with a SDI or DST-i versus using the CARDAQ. Now, if you're only worried about powertrain, then you're not going to do a full system scan anyways, and you're going to go straight into the engine control module. So we'll see how long that takes using this device as well. Now, in case you hadn't already used the Opus configuration tool, you'd want to do that now. Make sure you have the DST-i selected. And just to make sure we're actually communicating, I'm going to go to all of the models. We're going to check the ECM first to make sure that we actually have communication. Because if we don't have communication with the ECM, there's no point in waiting for the full system code scan. Okay, so we were able to communicate. So let's go back. We're going to do the all system diagnosis. And we'll wait for the message to pop up saying asking if I push the cruise control button. We'll just hit yes. I did not press it, but that's okay. It is 2:31 right now. We'll see how long this takes. So this one actually completed. It just took a little bit longer to complete the code scan. Not much longer, couple minutes. I think the last one took 8 or 9 minutes. This one took around 10. But either way, painfully slow process. You can do a code scan with the snap-on or the launch tool much quicker than you can with the factory tool. And that's just because it's trying to communicate with every single module possible, even though this 2007 or 8 Outback isn't equipped with any of those modules. Let's go ahead and exit out of here. Let's just make sure that, we can look at the same data that we could do before with the other tool. So that took a little bit longer. I would say that there's probably a 10 to 20% time increase with the CARDAQ versus the factory SDI. Now, I don't know how that compares to the Denso DST-i because I don't have one. But either way, this saves you from buying another interface if you already have the CARDAQ. Or you can buy the Mongoose cable and be able to do this for $800 instead of spending $2,000 for an SDI or a DST-i. Let's go to data once again. Now it still has our items selected, even though we've closed out the software and reopened it. I'm kind of surprised that it kept those open. So let's stop. We'll select those items that we have check marked. Throw them into a graph just to see, and just like before, our sample rate is really high when we're down to 4 data pits. Everything looks like it's working the same as the factory tool, which is good. Now, I don't know how to get back all of our data pits that we've removed. Maybe the back button. There we go. So that brings all this stuff back. Now, I am seeing a slight delay here, before this pops back up and lets me record. I don't know if it was doing that with the factory tool. I didn't notice it before. So it might just be something with the CARDAQ. But at least this way, our sample rate's counting about the same speed. Actually, maybe a little slower. Oh, there, it picked up. It seems about the same as the Subaru SDI. We can see all of our data PIDs. So I would say all in all, if you have a CARDAQ already, at least a CARDAQ Plus 3 is supported, I don't see a reason to buy the factory tool. You can just get by with your CARDAQ. Now, acquiring the software is a whole nother story, and quite expensive to get your annual subscription to the SSM4, which includes SSM3. But at least if you have gone that route, your DST-i breaks, whatever it may be, you can get by with the CARDAQ Plus 3. Plus, if you're working on multiple makes and models, I kind of suggest just getting a J box that supports both those models, so possibly the Super Goose. If it's supported, you'd probably have to call Opus to verify. But the CARDAQ Plus 3, will work on Subarus, Hondas, Toyotas, all the American stuff. So it kind of covers everything across the board, although there's a few manufacturers out there that it has limitations on. But it appears that, everything we need is functioning with that tool. Now, I mentioned before that we would look at some of the purchasing options on eBay here. Gotta find the right screen. Here we go. The eBay link is dead, so I can't open it back up to show you the exact details. But when I bought mine, it came with all the original accessories, the lab scope. It's not really a lab scope. It's just a box to hook up the crank sensor and cam sensor for the advanced misfire function. Some of the test leads, the data link connector, which I'm going to see if I can get another data link connector. That one is super stiff. So I got to check the pin out to see if it's the same as some of the Bosch boxes or some of the aftermarket scan tools I have. If not, then I'll have to try and build a cable or have someone build me a cable. But this is the tool that I bought. The nice thing about this tool is you can use it as a standalone tool. You don't need the laptop, so you can plug this right in and check codes, clear codes. It's still slow. I tried using it with the immobilizer function a while back. It was on a 2008 Subaru Impreza, and it was all keys lost. I had the factory pin code. I still couldn't get this to program the keys. I couldn't get the SSM3 monitor or the SSM3 software to program the keys with the factory interface or with the aftermarket interface. But my Autel did it in 30 seconds. So there are some issues, with some of these tools, especially as they get older, they update software. I have updated the firmware in this, and it's possible that updating that firmware to the latest version broke some of the features that worked in the past. It's not a supported tool anymore. So if I called Subaru helpline, they're not going to help me. If I call the company I bought SSM4 from, they're not going to help me either. It's just one of those things that it's not a supported tool anymore. So there's not going to be tech support. But you can see I paid $1,000 for it. I got a heck of a deal. There's not deals like that every day. Here's one right now for $2,000 for just the interface. And since there's not a whole lot of them out there, there's probably, this could be a valid price. I would say that every once in a while I see a new one popped on here, but normally it's the same interface over and over. He does have an option to make an offer. So, you could, if you're looking to buy one of these tools, you could probably, submit a bid of your own, whether that's $1,500, $1,000. Obviously they're not going to accept it if you send them a low ball offer. Now, Denso DST-i, I don't see anything used available in the US. There is a cable for it, and this cable may work with my SDI. But if we come down here, there's some that are shipped from Japan. Now, these ones here, I don't know if they will work because they say that they do not come with a license. And I don't know what that means, because Honda also used the DST-i and maybe Isuzu. So I don't know if it has to have specific firmware or a specific card to work in those situations, but I don't think I would spend the $800 on that gamble to not know if it's going to work right or not. Now, it's coming from Japan, so I would assume that it's legit, but it could be a clone device, especially since Subaru themselves say that we can't get these devices anymore. If there was a bunch of them available still, I would think that Subaru would get their hands on them just for the dealerships. And then here is a picture of the new device, and I don't know if this is an accurate price for, buying one. This is also coming from Japan, so you do your own research. I haven't bought one of these. I haven't used it, but the Denso DST-010 will work with Toyota TechStream, which is now Global TechStream, and SSM4. But what I don't know is if this will work with, if you have firmware loaded on it for Toyota, I don't know if it'll work with Subaru, or if you have to have multiple devices. So if you're going to buy one of these, just keep in mind that this tool, the 010, does not work with SSM3. So I think that wraps it up. I just really wanted to share with you guys that there is an alternative to the OEM interface. If you're working at a dealership and your interface died and you're struggling to find something that'll work with the factory tool, you're looking on eBay and you're like, I'm not going to spend $2,000 of my own money since my dealership won't buy it for me. The Mongoose cable would be the best route. You know, $700 or $800, you can buy that with the software. It'll work with SSM3. Even if your dealership's buying the tool, they may not be able to find a Denso DST-i or an SDI, or be unwilling to buy a used one. You might have them buy one from Opus instead, and at least you can get that software back up and running. The other option is an aftermarket scan tool. You may have, you know, different functions that don't work, or different things, testing that you need with the factory tool that the aftermarket one doesn't have, in case you're starting a case with extended warranty. But honestly, all the vehicles 2014 and older, there's no warranty left on those. So you guys really are going to be opening up a tech support case on those. So you probably don't need access to the factory tool, other than if you're used to using it and know all the functions, know it inside and out, then that still is probably your best bet. So I would go with the Mongoose cable. If you guys have any questions or comments, put those down below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, click the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.